Better value for better protection. Get your ship and cargo covered with us today. To better serve you, you can now purchase your insurance online from the comfort of your home. Caricom General Insurance Company Inc., located at 121 Regenton Ornock Streets. You can contact us on telephone numbers 225-1787 or you can try 269-0020.
Good afternoon and welcome down to the Wake Up Guyana show. This is your today, March 2nd edition of the show. Firstly, let me apologize for not being with you yesterday, but of course, we had an emergency that had to be attended to. But I'm here today nevertheless. If you don't know who I am, I'm Shivanie Rampersaud, and I'm filling in for Tony from My Coney, who should be back with you maybe by the end of the week. Today, before we go into our topic of the day, I just want to remind you guys that this show is all about you. It's about your issues, the current issues that you're facing, where we can try to find a solution to them. We listen to your problems and try to address them. So, of course, despite the topics that we may be discussing, feel free to send us your topics, your concerns, your questions on our WhatsApp number 622-2222. You can also call us live in studio on 226-7453. This is a Kaieteur radio production specially for you. So before we continue into today's topic, let me just say that today marks 1 year since our longest ever elections to be held in Guyana. Last year, on a day like today, we were heading to the polls. And of course, we're not really going to be discussing that much, but I just want to say that the experience that we all would have had, which was one in history for us as a country, as a nation, let's hope that we would not have to ever experience that again. And let's pray that our country continue to develop and our politicians do what is necessary to ensure that the rights of everyone is on the front burner, and no matter who's in power, the people's interest is best at heart. With that said, let's move on to today's topic. And of course, you would know that Kaieteur Radio and Kaieteur News has been pushing a lot on what has happened with this. The headline that we had yesterday was Spanish woman. So I'll just say that the victim that was allegedly assaulted and raped by the taxi driver. So that's what we'll be focusing on today, coupled with a conversation that we had on Friday. If you did not catch our Friday show, on Friday we spoke about the high instances of child sexual abuse and generally what's happening across the country. In regards to that, we spoke about the 10-year-old child. We talked about a 6-month-old baby that was raped and molested by a family member last year, as well as the figures, the statistics that we've been seeing with regards to child molestation and sexual abuse cases. Just to give you a quick recap, in September 2020, the Child Care Protection Agency would have released the figures, and up to that point we had more than 500 cases reported for last year. That's up to September, of course, and these are all underage children. So we were discussing how we can change that culture, what we can do to ensure that our kids are safe, and what environments we can put them into, especially given the fact that there's a pandemic and a lot of us have to go out to work while our kids are at home. Today's topic kind of comes hand in hand with that. because it discusses the the instance of this victim that was raped and abused, of course, by the taxi driver. And I just want to say that personally, reading the story yesterday, I had a hard time going through the entire article because, as a woman, I mean, this was just horrible to have to think that this is an environment where we live, you know? I don't think I've ever come across a story like this. I mean, there's a lot of abuse going on, a lot of sexual abuse, a lot of physical abuse going on with women, emotional, mental. We all are aware of that. But a case like this, where this person would have said to this woman that you are my 24th victim, actually sitting down and thinking about that, it makes you very, very reserved. It makes you very scared to be on your roadways, to just be out there, because you can be walking on the road and the person next to you can be someone like this. For so many years that we've been here, as I said, I don't think I've ever seen someone that's a serial rapist or to the extent of brutality that we've seen here happening. So it leaves you to wonder now how many more people like this might be there. We see these things a lot happening on the international platforms. If you guys look at Investigation Discovery, this is something coming out of that. When I read this story, it reminded me of episodes on Investigation Discovery where you have persons talking about their experiences, and you see these shows where persons are picked up on the roadways and assaulted and so on. But for it to be happening right here, it's very, very worrisome. In case you guys missed the story, it was really, really hit on a lot on Kaieteur Radio. It was even discussed on the Glenn Lyle show last night, where I'm going to give you some of the points. But of course, we're going to go into the story. Yesterday's story's headline was Spanish woman raped, sodomized, battered as neighbors rushed to get help. It also carried the sub-headlines that said, he said you will be my 24th victim. This is coming from the victim itself. And it also carried another sub-headline that says, cops spelled clothes on her, released rapist. Yes, so that was our story yesterday. It was on the center page. It's a pretty long story. I wouldn't go into reading it for you, but if you were listening to the rebroadcast of the Glenn Lyle show, someone actually read the entire article. If you missed it, I'm guessing they will be doing a rebroadcast at some time, probably soon, on the same show. But moving on to today, the headline in today's paper was actually a bit relieving. It said, serial rapist arrested. Let's just pause for a couple seconds. After reading that story, coming to work today and seeing a headline that says serial rapist arrested, it gives you kind of a sense of satisfaction. But reading into the story, it leaves a lot of questions. It shows a lot of loopholes, especially as it relates to our judicial system and the way in which we handle these kind of cases, the way in which we deal with people, and the way in which I think our police force is trained to deal with victims of these kinds of cases. So, if you haven't read the story, the serial rapist is said to be his fourth time being arrested and charged for an assault, or he's still basically awaiting charges. Last year, I think it was sometime in April, there was an article, and I'll read an extract from the article. It says, 3 months after 30-year-old taxi driver, that's Tristan Semple, was charged for sexually assaulting 2 sex workers, he was on Friday charged again with penetrating a woman without her consent. Now, this is taken from an article in a section of the media in 2018. This is the same guy that is now being arrested for this gruesome attack on this woman. The first thing that comes to mind when you hear this, and I want you guys to contribute to the conversation, of course, whether it's going to be on our Facebook page, or you're going to send us on WhatsApp, or you're going to even call us in. I want to hear from you. What is the first thing that comes to mind when you hear that last year this man was not once, not twice, but 3 times he was charged for a sex-related crime, assaulting women, forcefully having sex with them, and even though they were sex workers, it still has the same impact. How do you feel knowing that this person was on the streets less than, let's say, 2 years later? It hasn't even been full 2 years as yet. So how does that make you feel, especially as a woman? How does that make you feel knowing that? I really think that our judicial system failed miserably during that time, because we have people who have minor crimes, like they're involved in minor crimes, and they go into jail for very long times. They're there, they can't be addressed, or they can't come out. They're sitting there waiting their sentencing and so on for very, very minor things, right? Which can probably be, based on one of our conversation, can even be traded for, let's say, community service time to avoid overcrowding. But then you have a man who has sexually assaulted 3 people within a time frame of maybe a year, like within 2 years, but it falls within 12 months. So let's say within a year. That would be 2017 and 2018. And he's back out on the streets by 2021, January, February. That just leaves you to wonder, like, what is really going on in the justice system? Like, what is really going on there? How do we deal with that? How can we change that? I know a lot of people have been saying that we are looking at probably getting Sex Offenders Act. Sorry, I'm seeing a comment here. A Sex Offenders Register in place. This has been a discussion for quite a while now. I have no idea why this has not been passed as yet. And I do think that is probably one of the best ways to curb the situation. Because having that registry in place would allow us to be able to check people's backgrounds, if they would have committed that type of crime or any crime relating, any sex related crimes, they would be listed on that registry. So it gives you a sense of security knowing that when you check that registry, you can see the faces of these people, you can see their names, and you can be safe. Because if you happen to spot them in the street, I'm not saying that people don't change, of course, and that there should be discrimination, but at the same time, you would be aware of who they are. You would be aware of having your kids around them, because this person can be your neighbor. It can be a relative. It can be somebody that's in your homes every day with you, that's in your homes every day with your children, and they probably wouldn't only prey on your girl children. So let's not get carried away that only girls are affected by these types of crimes. It happens to boys as well. And on Friday, we were discussing the minors and that happening. And there was one of the stories that I mentioned. I don't know if you guys could remember, but just a few months back, there was a father who was sexually assaulting both of his kids, a boy and a girl. So just to make that clear, a predator wouldn't necessarily just prey on your girl children. It happens to boys as well. And we need to be very, very careful about who's around our kids. With that said, having that registry in place, it gives you an additional security, because you can go and you can check that. And of course, as a parent, you know something like that is there. You would utilize it. At least I hope you would. You would go online, see who those people are, see if it's somebody you know, somebody might be around your area, so you can protect your kids and yourself even further. Because it's not just about children, it's about you as well. Now, with that said, let's come back to the case that we're discussing, which is the one with the Spanish woman, as they would have said, and the headline being assaulted. This story has so many factors that touches you in so many different ways. It gives you so many different emotions. It makes you angry. It makes you sad. It makes you worry. This is a woman that just happened to be standing on the corner of a road. Yes, she's a sex worker. Yes, it's illegal for prostitution to be done in Guyana, and that's given. But at the same time, she is a human, and no matter what she chooses to do with her personal life, she should be given the same protection as everybody else. She should be safe as all of us, because we can be, as a woman, you can be somewhere at a bar, at a club, you can be even in your homes, even in your streets, and you happen to see somebody that you might be familiar with. You're talking to them. You decide, okay, I can trust this person. They invite you out, you decide to go. And then you end up in a situation just like this. It doesn't have to be reckless. It doesn't have to be carelessness. It doesn't have to be because she's a sex worker that this happened. It could have been, let's say, she did not accept a job like that. He just offered her, let's say, to go hang out somewhere. And as she said, she knew him from the bar that she works, because he would come there. She had spoken to him before. She was familiar with him, and she decided to go. Now, had that happened, would the responses be the same? Like the ones we've been seeing on social media, people bashing her, people saying, oh, she's a sex worker, so what's the big deal? Whether she's a sex worker or a normal woman just living her life every day, or a mother or a friend or whatever she is still human. And she should have the same protection as everybody else. She should be able to walk out there and be safe. Nobody should be doing what he was doing. And based on this statement that he made to her, let me find the exact words, in his words, what he said to her. It tells you that this young man has probably been not just assaulting women, not just sexually molesting them, but probably even killing them. And I would say that from my own opinion, it's not yet proven. So of course, as they say, you're innocent until proven guilty. But based on his own words to her, what he said to her, it gives the impression that he may have committed murder before. And I'm trying to find the part in the article where she said what he said, to just give you guys an idea of what it is. When he was beating on her, let me see if I can find that. Okay, she said, she recalled that, this is from the article, I'm quoting her, right? She recalled that as she battled for survival, her attacker said in these words, and I quote, "I will kill you. You will be my 24th victim. I have done this many times before, and you will be no different." This is the victim recounting what this young man said to her. Her attacker said to her. Her predator said to her. And I will read it again. This is a quote in his exact words. It says, "I will kill you. You will be my 24th victim. I have done this many times before, and you will be no different." Any person in their righted mind hearing something like that would automatically think that this man is confessing to murder. He's saying to her basically, oh, I've killed before, and I'm going to kill you as well, and it's something that I've been doing, so you will be no different. That's my interpretation of what his words were. And I don't know if you guys agree with me, but I think that there is so much more that will come after this. I'm hoping that, as he said, she's 24. Whoever were the other victims, they would be strong enough to use this to speak out and come forth so that he would be able to face the full blunt of the law. I hope that the law enforcement officers as well will do their job to ensure that, you know, after releasing him so many times for similar crimes, that they will finally see where he needs to be. So, there's some other things relating to this story that I want to touch on, but before we do that, let me see if we can go through some of the comments on Facebook. We have Pam Singh saying, well, if the evidence being produced aren't convincing enough, I guess that's why he's still out in the public. Just saying. In a sense, that can be correct. But these women would have testified. They would have given their statements to the police that this young man, who is a taxi driver, he operates taxis, had picked them up, taken them to his home where he assaulted them. There were visible marks of violence and all of that, and they all complained and reported that he forcefully had sex with them without their consent, which, in my opinion, should be evidence enough. There are statements as well from the neighbors that says that almost every day you would see this young man taking a different woman to his home, and you would hear the women screaming. They would hear these women in pain. They would hear them bawling out for help. And at many times, there were times when some of the neighbors thought that it was his personal girlfriend and whatever, they wouldn't get involved. There were people who said that they didn't get involved because every time they reported it, the guy would get bail. And that's what I'm saying. The system itself has that flaw, because you're being reported not once, not twice, but numerous times as a person basically assaulting women, whether it be sexual assault, physical assault. You're assaulting women, you're brutalizing them, and you're being given bail on every count. That doesn't seem right. Anybody in their right mind who doesn't have any sense of the law can tell you that that should not be happening. It's like somebody continuously stealing from your home every day. You know they're stealing from you every day. And every time they come back, you allow them back into the house. It's like doing that. It's like saying, okay, this person has committed this crime once, they committed again, they committed again, they committed again. But we'll keep giving them bail because at some point they will change. The change that we have seen is that he almost killed this woman. And probably may have killed others in the past based on his own statement, which I just read to you guys. So I don't think that that's good enough to say that the evidence produced aren't convincing enough, but it is a possibility. Anil says we have it in the USA. They can't live by park or school areas. I'm guessing you're referring to the sex offenders registry, which we're still fighting here to get. We haven't been able to pass that law as yet. I don't know why, but I do know it's been on the agenda for a very long time. And I think that it's far overdue. We shouldn't even be in a place where it's not existing as yet. But I don't know what's happening from the political end and from the law enforcement end. And hopefully, while this situation was such a horrible one and a horrible experience for this woman, that it really pushes for that sex offenders registry to be in place, and also for us to be able to start looking at stricter measures and even harsher consequences and treating these kinds of cases in a better manner. I have Sharon says she's joining us from Brazil. We have Nolifar, I hope that's the right pronunciation. Nolifar Singh saying women are brutalized every day in Guyana by men and then by the medical system, by the nurses and doctors. To respond to that comment, I do not disagree with you because it happens. As it relates to the nurses and the doctors, I cannot speak from an official point of view because I do not have any information on that. But if that is the case, I really do hope that it's being reported or at least it's coming to light, because I don't think that I've heard of any official report of any such cases. But if you know someone that may be in that situation, then definitely let them reach out to us or at least contact the relative authorities so that they can receive assistance. Because if that is happening, that is even worse than what we're talking about now. We have someone here saying, ON is saying many of our prosecutors and magistrates or judges are heartless. At the end of the day, they just want their salaries and benefits. And don't let me start on the police. They do not care about the case. Many just want money or sex and turn a blind eye and misreport the crime. I feel like that's a topic by itself. Talking about the way in which these persons deal with these kind of cases. And when I say these persons, I mean the police officers, the magistrates, and our judicial system in the whole. We have to take a break for some ads. When we come back, I will discuss what ON has commented here and said, and we'll continue going through the comments as well as the messages as we continue discussing this topic of the very, very gruesome rape and assault that took place on this Spanish national, and not just her, but the possibilities of what's been happening to other women that we have no idea of.
CARICOM General Insurance, a better value for better protection. Get your ship and cargo covered with us today. To better serve you, you can now purchase your insurance online from the comfort of your home. CARICOM General Insurance Company, Inc., located at 121 Regent and Ornock Streets. You can contact us on telephone numbers 225-1787 or you can try 269-0020.
Kaieteur Radio, keeping you informed.
Demerara and Essequibo 99.1 FM.
Burby's 99.5 FM. Kaieteur Radio.
Thank you for staying with us and welcome back to the Wake Up Guyana show. If you're now joining us, I am Shivanie Rampersaud. I'm filling in for Tony, who will be back hopefully by the end of the week with you guys. And we've been discussing the topic that's been all over social media for the past 2 days, the story of the Spanish woman that was assaulted and raped by the taxi driver. And basically, almost died during that horrible, horrible experience. Just before we took the break, we were going through the comments on Facebook, and Owen was saying that the magistrate, the prosecutors, and the judges are somewhat heartless. And he was also saying that, well, pointing out that the police and the justice system generally turns a blind eye to a lot of these kinds of crimes, and they tend to look forward for something in exchange to actually do something for them. Now, if you guys have been following Kaieteur Radio since yesterday, you would know that this was discussed on the Glenn Lyle show last night. There was a panel of people on that show that discussed this story as well as what's happening within the judiciary and the justice system. We did say earlier that there should be a sex offenders registry, but for some reason that has not been happening. It's not been passed as yet, although it's been there for a long time. Okay, we have a call coming in. We'll take the call and then come back to the discussion.
Hello?
Good day to you, caller.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I heard a guy commenting about that. A man driving a taxi, right?
Yes.
Raped this girl at his home, right?
Yes.
They were raped, whether big or little, they all shouted. Then the neighbors have heard this, why did they go? This man is using himself naturally. He's using some drugs or something for these women.
Actually, no.
Why carrying them, why carrying them at home? Only house and them got to shout out. Why?
Why he's taking them to his home, that's what you're asking?
Yes. Only at his home, the people hearing every girl that go in there have to shout out when they're raping them or
well, from the reports, that's what's been happening. He's been taking them to his homes. Yes. The neighbors have reported that several times they've heard women screaming in that home.
Right.
And they usually don't get involved because every time it's reported and this young man is picked up, he is released on bail. So they kind of just give up on the system. So and they said that they were also scared of him.
So what are the police doing?
Well, that's what we're...
Rape all the people at the home there?
That's what we're discussing here. We're trying to figure out what's been happening with the police because the young man said that this is his 24th victim. At least that is what the victim claims he said.
The police had to pull up that sacks, man. They're laughing for this thing. This man will continue. He can do the whole Guyana, carry my house for rape. And because he gets something in the house there where you use.
It's possible.
It's natural. Okay?
It's possible. That's possible. We can't dispute that because we don't know.
If we got the police can't... When you hear the scream, come here, I break the house and go in and see what you're using.
Well, the neighbors did say that they would tend to get involved, especially there are two elderly women around the area who said that they would have tried to stop him on several accounts, but he just keeps doing it, and it's every time it's a different woman.
Yes, a different woman. Because small, big, little, is the same got to scream. Why? Because this man using something against this woman.
It's possible.
Man, I don't know what the police doing. The police are lapsing from this work. I should have come aboard and do something like break this house and break it inside it.
Well, that's the thing. We're trying to ensure that this time the system does what is necessary to keep him in there because for some reason he seems to be getting out a lot.
Let me say this, right?
Yes, go ahead.
If he got to rape that woman, can't she get somebody for raping?
Well, we have to...
see the consequence I put on a woman this?
Well, we have to leave the course of justice to the law, of course.
If we leave the court, by the time the court done it, the whole guy get raped.
Well, we have to see what's going to happen, and we have to influence the change that we want to see in our system, huh?
Okay.
Well, thank you so much for calling.
Yeah, well, let's not hear about Guyana.
Yes, thank you. Bye-bye. Yeah, so that caller did contribute his 2 cents to the topic, and he does have some good points, like this has been happening more than once at this man's home. Why is it? It's the same question that we've all been asking. Why is it that it has continuously happened? Even though the neighbors are saying they got involved, they got the police involved. We have cases registered against him. There were assault cases against him. And we're still hanging by a thread. He's always being released. Like, that's the most baffling question that we have. Why is it that he's being given bail so many times? Is it that he has connections? Is it that he has a relative? Is it, I don't know what possible reasons we can have for releasing him on so many different counts. Contributing to the conversation is Sati, who says, how can a criminal get a taxi license to own a taxi and they were not being flagged when a criminal check was done to give them the license? Sati, that doesn't happen in Guyana. They do not require you to have a taxi license to drive a taxi. You can go work with a base, which means that you can have a car that is registered to the base and you work with them, or you can get a private person's car where you rent it from them and you just enroll in a base, or you can work privately. There are people who do private taxi work as well off of their own, where people can call them and so on. So this is probably a measure that we can put in place, especially as it relates to taxi drivers, because not just in Guyana, over the past couple of months, we've been seeing a lot of similar cases in Trinidad and so on, and they have been related to taxi scenarios. So maybe a safer way to ensure traveling is safe, especially for women, we can probably look at creating that requirement for you to go and uplift a taxi's license, which would clear you from a police record and so on before you're given that, to ensure that you're somebody that is safe to travel with. Of course, that is just discussion from our end, because that has to be enforced by the law itself, and it has to be placed there, at least from the business ministry or somewhere. It has to become a requirement. But I do think that that would be a great suggestion, and maybe it should be put forward to the ministry for consideration. But given the time frame that it takes to get anything done here, I don't know how soon we'll be able to see that. We have Bibi Fazia Jaikaran saying she hopes that the survivors do come forward. Yes, as I said, I really hope that the other women who were probably assaulted by this guy come forward and uses this as an opportunity to ensure that he's locked away for the rest of his life. And also as a way of showing women who would have had similar experiences that it can get better. As a victim, you can recover from it. Of course, there's going to be trauma, there's going to be healing, but you can actually make something positive out of what has happened. We have Chandra, this is Chabraji, I hope that name is correct, says, good afternoon, Shivanie and all the listeners of Wake Up Guyana. A woman is a mother, a sister, a daughter. Why they have to go through this? Yes, that is a question that we've been asking for many years, not just now, not just here, but across the entire world. This has been happening. And while we're focusing on women, I just want to keep reminding you guys that this also happens to guys. It's just not reported as much, it's just not made public as much, because I guess of the stigma and stuff that's around it. Let me see what other comments we have here. Sarah says the police don't care, all they care about is money. Sharon says the government needs to put a strong penalty in place. Harry says this guy have contacts and needs to be looked into. I was just saying that. I really think that it probably is that case, because the way that he's been receiving bail on the numerous charges for the same thing, it's kind of mind-boggling, because I cannot see how that's possible. Pam says if the woman don't or refuse to give evidence against him, that is why he's out. Well, that's possible, but based on the articles of the charges before, the women did give evidence against him. So it comes back to you asking the question, why? Why is it that, he keeps getting out? A lot of the questions that we're seeing in the comments is the same. Basically asking about why he was let out and so on. And that's what we're trying to find out as well, because we don't know, and that shows the huge gaps that we have within our system. We have a comment here from Sherry. Sherry, this comment is very long, and we are pressed for time. But I'm going to try to go through it. before we end the show. Okay, so before we go back to the Facebook comments, there's some messages that's coming in as well. Let me see if we can get through a few of those so that we can get your input as well as what's happening. We have good afternoon. Okay, this one says, I have an issue concerning the diabetic foot center clinic facility at a Study Public Hospital. There is no proper place where patients have to wait in the sun or rain. The patient have to be outside waiting. So the nurses there does start working until 9 a.m. When they reach, the patient have to leave close to midday for home. Okay, so we'll probably have to make a note of this and look into what we can find out about that. Let me just write that down. With regards to other issues, not just the one we're discussing today, we had a call a couple days back, I think it was on Thursday or Friday on the show, where an individual was complaining about not having insulin and other medication at the Herstelling Health Center. So we did look into that, and just to give you an update, the ministry did announce that they are short on insulin, and there's some drugs that is not available at the moment. So it's basically a shortage that's causing you not to have them at your facility. So it's not just happening in that area. We are trying to find out how soon it will be made available and so on, but we're still awaiting an update on that. We have Derek here saying the Chief Justice is a woman. Women in Guyana did not launch a march against this heinous act. If these beautiful women in Guyana do not take to the streets for their safety, then those vulgars would assume you ladies are condoling this type of heinous behavior. This man is a manic, preying on these migrants because of their day-to-day condition. Let's get rid of it ASAP. And the ladies in Guyana will enjoy quality of life. I do agree with you. This is the time for women to stand up against these kinds of things. And let me say this. Let's forget about this one incident for just a couple seconds and think about every day you have multiple women being abused by partners, by family members, by people within the police forces. Yes, the police forces. We've had GDF reported in the last couple months of similar acts where they were engaged in sexual activities with minors and so on. So the police force as well. We've had people in the medical fraternity, basically in every walk of life, abusing women and abusing people generally. And it's that time where we need to start putting a stop to it. We need to start standing up to it. Something stuck out to me when I was reading this story about the same Venezuelan, the Spanish woman. It said at one point, the neighbors said that, well, not the neighbors said that the guy said to them when they intervened that that's his woman and his matter or something like that. I don't quote me, it's not the exact word, but he did say it's his woman. Now, whether it's his woman, whether it's his wife, whether it's his mother, whether it's his daughter, you have a right to intervene. You have a right to make a report. You have a right to report abuse of any form against anybody, whether it be a child, it be an adult, it be a partner, it be whoever. You have that right to your society. You have that obligation to that person to make that report or to intervene. A lot of times it's not advisable to intervene physically because you might end up making the situation worse or you might end up getting hurt. But you can play a role by reporting it. If you know there's somebody within your community, somebody around you that's being abused or that is an abuser, you can even make an anonymous call to the police to report this person. So I just want to encourage you guys to do that. Abuse of any form is not acceptable. And we need to start treating it that way. We have to come out of that mentality when you see a man and his wife fighting. Oh, it's not my business. It's their personal business. You don't get involved in man and wife story. We need to stop thinking like that. That is why you have a lot of victims staying in abusive situation. That is why we have a lot of victims ending up dead, because they don't know where to go, who to turn to, because nobody supports them. Or the community would tell them things like, girl, you got a good husband, man. Well, one time he just knocked you. That's not nothing. Or you have family members saying to you, oh, we went through that, man. Your father this day, so your uncle this day, so, and we still here. You just got beer up. Let me tell you something. I've had a woman said to me once, as women, we just got beer up. Like, bear up what? Excuse me, bear up what? Because you're a woman, you have to bear up for what? You allow somebody to brutalize you for what reason? I mean, come on. The culture, the mentality that we have, it needs to change. If that does not change, no matter how much laws we got in place, no matter how much we fight, no matter how much we talk, it will never stop. We have to make that change. We have to change the way that we think. We have to change the way that our society operates. And we have to change the fact that we accept this kind of behavior, and we tend to pass it down to our children. Because when you're in a community growing up and you see this man that's beat up your wife, you automatically feel, man, that's normal. So if it happens to you, you don't see anything wrong with it. As a man growing up, you see a father beating your mother, you start thinking, man, she deserved her. So you do it to your partner. Those are the kind of things that we need to change. Those things are not acceptable at all. Because in this case, this is someone that picked up this woman from the road. But it happens every single God day in our homes. It happens within our own families, within our own neighborhoods. And we need to get involved. We have just 10 minutes remaining, so I'm going to try to see how many more comments we can go through. And I know I might sound a bit distraughted in the way I'm speaking today. And since yesterday, I saw there was this person commenting about my facial expression since yesterday morning on the Subaki PR. It's really, really, really disturbing to be reading this kind of situation about this kind of stories. It's really, really disturbing as a woman to see what happened to this woman. And you cannot be in the same frame of mind that you usually are after seeing something like that, after reading something like that. So I do apologize if I sound a bit emotional or I sound a bit distraughted, because I am upset. I'm feeling so many different emotions. And if you really, really understand the issue at hand here, then you will definitely feel the way that I'm feeling, because it happens too often and it should not be happening. And the way that our justice system is dealing with it, it makes you even more enraged. Someone says that this story turns their inside upside down and they should bring back hanging because he is a monster and doesn't deserve to be in the public anymore. Yes, definitely. I did say this sorry, I was reading another comment the other day. I did say that we need to probably consider bringing back that penalty or the capital punishment for crimes like these. All right, you once a person is like this, you know for sure they've committed such a crime, or it's a crime against a child, ain't got no question. It should be capital punishment. Because there should be no place for people like this in our society. They should not be going into our prison system where we have to be working as taxpayers and sending our money to give them 3 meals a day while they sit down and enjoying their life. And we got to work out here to figure out where we get them food from. And they raping our kids, they're murdering our women and things like that. It should not. I really, really think that capital punishment should be brought back. So I agree with that person. We have someone else saying, Calvin in the US. Well, this is Calvin messaging us to let us know. I agree with Sati that in the US we have the extensive background checks for certain jobs, including taxi drivers, teachers, etc. Put background checks in place, and this guy clearly had a criminal history and should not have been allowed to work without clearing a proper background check. Yes, that really, really is an issue, and I do hope that the authorities do consider putting those things in place so that we don't have this kind of situation happening again, or at least there is more security as it relates to it. Someone else is saying Guyana is like the Wild West, most people doing what they want. The police force is the reason for so much crime, bribery, and corruption within the force. The government needs to assess these policemen and women, check their performance and educational background, get overseas help with their training. The guy who raped the Spanish woman and the other 23 persons should be castrated and given life in prison. Thank you for your input. And as I said, I do agree with the capital punishment. Someone says, was he another Andrea Barrett type, serial killer or rapist? This Andrea Barrett is the young lady that was recently found murdered in Trinidad. And that one case made such a huge difference in Trinidad. And that's what I'm saying. Maybe as unfortunate as this case is, we should probably use this as a way now to ensure there is enough activism, enough awareness, and to ensure that we fight for what has to be done, which is ensuring that it doesn't happen to any other woman again. Okay, with that said, those are all the messages that we have at the moment. There is a comment that I saw just now that I wanted to read. Somebody said, are there shelters in Guyana for abused women? Oh, yes, they are. I can tell you offhand, the Guyana Hindu Dharmic Sabha has a shelter. It's a private place. I cannot tell you where it's located because of the safety of the women, of course. But in case you or somebody you know that may need assistance, you can contact them and they would be able to assist you. There is help and shelter as well. They usually have homes or safe houses, as you call them, where women can be placed for their security until they can probably be stabilized. There are a lot of NGOs, private NGOs, of course, that tries to assist as much as they can. So there are quite a few. Let me see if I can quickly pull up a number for help and shelter, so at least I can leave that with you because we are running out of time on today's show. They are located on Homestretch Avenue. And let me see. Oh, I got a number for them. If you or somebody you know needs that help and you need a place to stay, you can call them at 225-4731. That's 225-4731. That's help and shelter. If you need a place to stay or you're encountering any form of abuse, you can call them and they will be able to guide you as to where you can go and how you can get help. I also have an NGO that assists women and do charitable work. It's called Young Pioneers. You can find us on Facebook if you need to contact us, or you can call me or WhatsApp me on 669-2619. That's 669-2619. If you message us with any problem that you have as it relates to this particular topic, then we can put you in touch with the authorities or the person that you need to speak with. But we do encourage you that if you are living around someone that is being abused, to help that person by reaching out, because sometimes the victims are so emotionally abused and mentally abused that they cannot reach out themselves, or they don't have the strength to do it because of the blackmailing and so on that they go through. It's kind of a phase that happens to abuse people, so it's just natural. So maybe if you make the first move, they will come out. And with that, I have to say goodbye to you because it's 14 hours 57. And we have coming up next is Team MMR. Riaz is going to be keeping your company with some great selections. And as usual, just entertaining you for the rest of the afternoon up until 4 o'clock, where we're going to have our DJs, in-house DJs, keep your company after that. So I just want to say thank you guys so much for joining the discussion, for commenting, for messaging, for calling. We didn't have so many calls today because a lot of people were messaging us and joining the conversation on Facebook. So I just want to leave you guys with one statement, which is stay safe, because you never know who is around you. You never know who might be who around your kids, around your families, even people within your own households might be abusers, they might be aggressors, they might be rapists. So just stay safe. And as you go out there, look out for each other. If you see something's happening or there's signs of someone being abused and they may not know who to turn to or what to do, then you can reach out to them. If you can't reach out to them, reach out to any of the agencies that we would have mentioned here. Help and Shelter is usually one of the best places because they can put you on to the other agencies that can help you find a home to stay or at least get you out of that situation. With that said, I hope you guys have a great afternoon. Join us again tomorrow for another edition of the Wake Up Guyana show, where we'll continue our discussion maybe on the same topic and some other issues that you guys are facing.